Well, I want to go right now to the Patriot Mobile Newsmaker line. We are honored to have a great man with us, a man who would not have left Americans behind enemy lines. President Donald Trump. Mr. President, what an honor to have you on the show today.
Well, it's my honor, Todd. Thank you very much. And you have a great show, and it is indeed my honor. And you're right about that. We would not have left people behind, and we wouldn't have left $1 worth of equipment behind, let alone $83 billion, which is inconceivable. This is one of the best outfitted armies in the world because of us. Can you believe this?
It's just shocking, Mr. President, and the idea that you have people out there trying to blame you, including Senator Mitt Romney. You're the man who wanted us to get out of there. You had a plan, and had the Biden administration just followed the plan, we would not be in the situation we're in right now.
So Mitt Romney couldn't be elected dog catcher in Utah, a great state that I won by a lot. He couldn't be elected dog catcher. I think he's a sick puppy, but a major loser. Him and little Ben Sass, a couple of them over there. That's the problem we have. You know, the Democrats stick together, and the Republicans don't because they don't have a good leader in Mitch McConnell. And it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. And, you know, because we have so many things, debt ceiling. We could use debt ceiling. That's a big weapon. There's nothing bigger than debt ceiling, and make all the deals you want because you're playing with a big thing. But if we use the debt ceiling, we'd negotiate the best deal you've ever seen, even though they have, because of Mitch McConnell and some others, even though they have the majority in theory with the votes of the vice president. But we could use debt ceiling and get all of this stuff back because there's nothing more powerful, just about nothing more powerful than the vote on debt ceiling.
You know, Mr. President, over the weekend, we saw reports from at least one officer in the military who was condemning, calling out the woke generals, as you've been calling them out there at these wonderful rallies you've been holding. What is your message to members of the military who are dejected right now? They want to get out there. They want to go and rescue those Americans, but they're being told to stand down.
So I knocked out 100% of the ISIS caliphate. And I realized we have just great soldiers, but we have great generals, too. I had a general I dealt with. We'll be talking about him maybe later, but he was phenomenal. And we did it in 4 weeks. We knocked out the ISIS caliphate. When I took it over, it was a mess. It was growing and growing in Iraq and Syria. And I knocked it out in 4 weeks. And I had a general that said, I said to him, they tell me it's 2 years. Sir, I can do it in 4 weeks. And this is the kind of people you want. Not the woke people that we have. Our television generals are no good. They don't have what it takes. And, you know, I put up, you probably saw, I put up the opening to Patton, the movie Patton. We were in Alabama. We had 68,000 people show up in Alabama in the rain. Can you believe it? That's showing you that, you know, they have the fake news and they have all of the big tech and all of the crooked politicians and everything else. But we have the people. They're not taking this. They are not taking what's happening in Afghanistan. And, you know, if you looked last night, all they talked about was the hurricane. You look at CNN and you look at MSDNC. These are horrible. They're way down. Fortunately, they're way down in ratings. But all they want to talk about is the hurricane or anything else that they can talk about, because Afghanistan is not something that can even be discussed in a rational way. The level of stupidity, and we had a great agreement. In fact, even Biden admitted the other day he made a mistake because they didn't want him to say that, but he said it. It's probably the only truthful thing he said, that no people have been killed since this agreement was signed. We had no soldiers, no Americans were killed, and if they were, we would have hit them so hard. And they knew that, and Abdul knew that. Abdul is the one I dealt with, and he is, as you see, he's the head of the Taliban. But he understood, and I said, your home is going to be hit first. And they knew it. There was nothing that they would have done. And we had them, and I would have taken the equipment out. I would have taken the people out, and then we would have bombed every base but Bagram. We had to keep that because that's near China and Iran. So we were going to keep that for other purposes. I mean, they spent $10 billion building Bagram, and then they handed it out overnight. They give them the keys. I've never heard I have never seen stupidity like this. And they're trying to now, the narrative, Biden got out like he's brave. He got out like a man that was fleeing for his life. This is the United States of America. All over the world, they're laughing at us because of the way. Withdrawal is fine, but you withdraw with dignity and with victory. We had victory. They weren't doing anything at all, Todd. We had victory. You didn't hear of one attack. Think of it, 18 months and not one soldier was killed because of me. And now they're on the offensive. And those soldiers in that air base are in danger. And those planes going off, don't forget they have our rockets. They have rockets that shoot down planes. We gave it to them. We handed it to them instead of taking it out. So I've never seen anything like it. And the media, which is fake and crooked and corrupt, they're the worst people. They're the most corrupt people. The only thing I don't understand is why. They've got to hate our country, but they are totally, and they are, in fact, the enemy of the people. But the corrupt media shows the hurricane all night long, even when it was no longer a hurricane. It gets to a storm, and all they show is that. They don't show they don't show the truth about Afghanistan. In the history of the world, there's never been a dumber, you would say, withdrawal than what we had in Afghanistan, and it made our country look weak and stupid.
Mr. President, who do you think is running the White House right now?
I have no idea who's running the White House, but whoever it is doing a terrible job. We had a rigged election. It was rigged. They just found 43,000 more votes last night. 43,000 more votes. And it's terrible. In Georgia, 43. I don't need that many. I need much less than that. Much less than that. They found 43, and that's only one section. That was only by doing one thing. You saw that, the 43,000 ballots. I believe that was the number. And, many times more. And so you have a guy who they rigged an election. If they could fight a war, and I said this the other day, the way they could rig an election, and they've been rigging elections for years, but not like this. And they said, we'll never let what happened in 2016 happen again. And they did things that nobody ever dreamt of. And they used COVID in order to cheat. And watch California. How about that one where you're allowed to make your own ballot? I mean, how about that deal going on in California?
It's unbelievable.
Nothing could be worse than what they did in 2020. They did every trick in the book.
When you look at 2022, with so many of our listeners, Mr. President, have been calling in saying, Todd, what can we do? And Mr. President, I'm asking you that question. What is it that the listeners of this program, what are folks in talk radio world, what can we do to help save this country?
Well, the first thing you have to do is look at the results that are going to soon be coming out of Georgia. A very corrupt election, unbelievably corrupt. Arizona, they led the way. The senators in Arizona deserve a major medal because they led the way. They found massive fraud. Now, it's all being done by them, not by me, but let's see what happens when they do their announcement. But Arizona, now Wisconsin is starting, Pennsylvania is starting. And these are states that I was winning by a tremendous number. And all of a sudden, it got wiped out. They cheated. And, when people cheat, I always say, if Tiffany gets robbed of its diamonds, when they catch the robber, you have to give the diamonds back. So does this mean they've caught him cheating already, frankly? There's more stuff. You know it and you cover it well. But they have all of this incredible evidence. Does this mean that we have to keep the people that cheated for another 3.5 years? Because we're not going to have a country left. I can tell you that. We won't have a country left. And the Republicans ought to get a leader other than Mitch McConnell, who can't lead. All he does is bribe people to be with him. He raises money and he gives it out to senators, and they stay with him for that reason, not that they respect him. But we need a real leader, and you have to use the debt ceiling to negotiate deals, because if you make these deals, if these deals are allowed to go through, again, you're not going to have a country. It's almost as stupid as the way they got out of Afghanistan. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. Can you imagine what President Xi of China, what Putin of Russia, what Kim Jong-un of North Korea, who, by the way, just today announced that he's going to start nuclear testing again. I had him. Beautiful. We got along great. Everything was fine. I met him. Everybody said, oh, it's terrible that you'd meet him. Obama thought we were going to war with him. And everything was good. But when he sees how stupid this administration is, amazingly, today he announces that he's going to start with the nuclear stuff again. And we had him under control, too. It's just not even believable how badly our country is running, and it's all because of a rigged election. Without the rigged election, we wouldn't be having inflation. We'd have a strong border. We had the strongest border in history, and now we have the worst border in history. And many of these people from the Middle Eastern countries are pouring into our country through the southern border, which would have been impossible to do 7 months ago.
Do you fear that we could be facing terrorist attacks from some of these Islamic radicals who've been released from the prisons in Afghanistan?
Oh, absolutely. And not only us, other countries also, because they're sending these people all over the world. They're getting on the planes and they're sending them all over the world. And those are the ones, they're smart, they're sharp, they know how to talk. The people that really need help, they won't get it. But they're landing planes all over the world. You're going to have terrorists. Look, I can tell you, terrorists are being dropped all over the world, including our country. But every time you see a plane land and you have that plane stuffed with people, they have no time to vet. And they can't vet anyway because in Afghanistan, nobody had any information. The only information we had were on American citizens and Afghans that helped us. And guess what? We gave that to the enemy, which is the Afghans. We gave that to the enemy. So now there'll be a knock on the door and they'll come and grab every single one. Who was the idiot that gave a list of all Americans in Afghanistan and all of the Afghans that helped us? They gave this list to the enemy. They no longer have to search and trial and error. They have the list. Who are the people? Who are these people that are so stupid, Todd? Who are these people?
I think they're Democrats, Mr. President. I think they're Democrats.
Well, I think they're worse than Democrats. I think they're communists, if you want to know the truth, because I really think they hate our country. And our country can't go on like this. And, when I went to Alabama, you had to see that crowd. And
it was amazing.
Where we had a comparable crowd. I mean, just packed, and we're doing some more. We're going to Iowa. We're going to Georgia. We're going to some others.
Mr. President.
And again, you have to see the anger and the enthusiasm, too, by the way, but the anger of the people.
Mr. President, I hate to do this. You know how the radio world goes. We're up against a hard break. I want to say thank you for coming on the program today, sir.
It's an honor. You do a great job. Thank you very much.
All right. President Donald John Trump, ladies and gentlemen, on the Patriot Mobile Newsmaker line.